Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to today's webinar, the third in the Mobile BI webinar series. Today's event is entitled Building Dashboards for Mobile Consumption, hosted by SAP Insider and presented by Decision First Technologies. I'm Steve Paul, and I'm your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. This webinar is designed to be interactive between you and our presenters. There is no dial-in required, so you can listen through your computer speakers, or audio is available via call-in numbers as provided. You can participate in our Q&A session by asking questions about the information presented in this webinar at any time. Just type your question into the text box located at the bottom right of your console. We'll answer as many questions as time permits after our presentation. Later in the program, we will ask for your feedback. There is a survey once you exit the event. Slides will be advancing automatically throughout the event, and if you require a PDF copy of the slides, a link will be sent to you along with access to the archive version after this event. At this time, we recommend you disable your pop-up blockers. If you're experiencing any technical problems, please visit our webinar help guide by clicking on the Help link in the upper right-hand corner of our console. And now on to our presentation, Building Dashboards for Mobile Consumption. Discussing today's topic will be Patrick Leonard, Business Intelligence Consultant with Decision First Technologies, and Stefan Nikas, Corporate Sales, also with Decision First. First, we'll hear from Stefan.
Steve?
Yes, hello, Stefan.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear anything. Yeah, thanks for turning it over to me, and thanks everyone for joining us today in this third part of our webinar series about business objects, mobile business intelligence. As many of you may not have attended the first couple of webinars, we'll start this presentation with a brief overview of Decision First Technology as an organization, and then I'll turn it over to Patrick for a very exciting presentation and demonstration of mobile dashboards today. Next slide, Patrick. So Decision First Technologies, just to give you an overview, is a leading SAP Analytics partner, and we're based out of Atlanta, Georgia. And we've been a Partner of the Year with SAP 7 times in our history, including in 2013 this year. So we sell, we support, and we implement the complete portfolio of Business Objects products, and that's all we do. Our sole focus as a company is business intelligence and data warehousing, and we've been doing that for over a decade, helping over 1,000 customers with business intelligence along the way. Our consultants are experts, in their fields. They're industry thought leaders, and so they tweet, they speak at conferences, and they blog. One resource that I would like to direct you to is our blog. It's sapbiblog.com, and you'll be able to find a ton of useful articles there. We have a deep knowledge of all the front-end tools, and also one of the main things that differentiates us is a very good expertise in our EIM practice, so all the ETL tools and data quality tools from SAP. We've done a lot of work with data services and information steward, and we understand the importance of data quality and data governance to drive success in our customers' BI projects. And one last thing about DFT here is we've been, adopting the HANA technology very early, and we have a center of excellence in Atlanta. We are doing work on HANA with different customers to drive really user adoption like never before. Another thing on HANA is that we've recently wrote the book on how to implement HANA from SAP Press. That's been written by 4 of our consultants. Next slide. So over the years, we've worked with customers of all sizes in different industries, and we don't have a particular industry focus. but we've come across a number of specific use cases in all the different industries that you can see here on your screen. So I'll go over some specific examples of work we've done with mobile projects, and if you want any more details about these customers, you can just contact me after the presentation. I'll start with an oil and gas company based out of Dallas that we've worked with because it's very relevant to the presentation today. For them, we've built what-if scenario dashboards that show oil and gas sales and volumes, and you can tweak these parameters to predict the effect on overall income. For another multi-billion-dollar specialty chemicals company, we've taken content that was previously in Webby, like we saw in our last webinar, and is now delivered on mobile to sales managers. So some of the things they're able to see is, sales numbers, sold to breakdown, and some information about their distributors network. And finally, we've helped a leading beverage company deliver crystal reports, dashboards, and some ad hoc analysis with Explorer, and that's delivered to their top-level executives. And now I will turn it back over to Patrick for his presentation. Patrick?
Thanks, Stefan. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. My name is Patrick Leonard. I am a business intelligence consultant with Decision First Technologies. Sorry, we're just getting to the right slide there. I'm a business intelligence consultant with Decision First Technologies. My expertise is in the dashboards and visualizations, as well as recently taking on the mobility, some of the mobility work for us. So today we're going to talk about dashboards and how they're best used on an iPad and other mobile devices as well. We're additionally going to kind of talk about some of the future of dashboards and where it is now versus where it has been just in the past few months and the past few releases of BusinessObjects. As well as, if time allows, we'll jump into a brief introduction to Design Studio, which is SAP's new HTML5 web application design tool. All right, so first we're going to talk about is what is a dashboard. Dashboards are rich visualizations that deliver really important information to their end users. They don't have to be very detailed. They don't need to be too granular. They can be a very high level and give the end user the information they want quickly. These oftentimes are more casual consumers of their data. They're not jumping down to the transaction level record and data. So SAP BusinessObjects Dashboards. I'm sure many of you who are here today have used the tool or seen it a little bit. It previously was called Excelsius, and for those of you who do actively use the tool, you'll notice that Excelsius.exe and other places it's used many places around the excuse me, around the tool and the file structure, and this process is still Excelsius.exe when it's running. Dashboards leverages the very powerful formula engine of Microsoft Excel. Allows for custom calculations and manipulation of the data at runtime to enable pulling in data and then manipulating it and using it however you need and see fit. Of course, those of you who do often use the tool, you know that not all of Microsoft Excel's formulas and functions are supported for use in dashboards in Excelsius, as well as some of them cause significantly more overhead than others do. Especially something to keep in mind when designing for the mobile device and mobile consumption. So things like VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP to find data and you kind of create your own on-the-fly database there. It is very, those are very processing intensive. So, all right. As I kind of touched on a little bit already, the best dashboards are very striking visually and very interactive. You need to draw attention. People need to want to use a dashboard. Oftentimes it is specific to an intended use case. It's done by design to support various lines of business and lines of work, but it's designed for that use case. So you don't want to mix your profit, a dashboard showing profit and loss of financial information, also with operational data and operational information. So make sure you're designing and getting requirements done appropriately. A dashboard to be well adopted and well used needs to be very easily understood by its consumers. There shouldn't have to be a help guide. There shouldn't need to be extra information that the consumer and of the data needs to go seek out just to be able to understand the dashboard that you've built for them. They are presentation tools, and now especially with the advent of the mobile dashboards, they are very easily shared. This is a dashboard something you can throw up on a big LCD screen right in your company's lobby, or share with your CEO and other C-level executives, as well as line of business users. They easily shared. This all kind of wraps together in that if it's easily understood, it can be easily shared, and if it's not easily understood, then it's not interactive, then there's no need to share it. A couple things which dashboards are not, however, is they're not ad hoc reporting tools. For those of you who have attended our web intelligence sessions, or are just web intelligence customers and Crystal reports and other reporting solutions, dashboards are not meant to replace that. They're also not enterprise reporting tools because there are significant limitations to data set size with dashboards. And I don't want to say significant to discourage their use. However, they're just not. It's not the time and place for hundreds of thousands or millions of rows of data. So dashboards, as opposed to things like web intelligence, they do typically require someone who is a trained SAP Dashboards user or designer. You don't have to be incredibly technical, though. This isn't something that requires a vast deal of coding knowledge and expertise. But it's not typically designed for your end user to develop this. That should be developed and then shared with end users. The rich visual customization, we talked about the kind of the visually striking and the interactive, and the intended use case. That all kind of comes back together in that it's a very tailored experience to the user, the type of user, as well as the desired use case for it and the role the dashboard is playing in your organization. So, for those of you who have seen the tool, just wanted to get a little snapshot of this is the welcome screen when you open up SAP Dashboards, and then it's you got your recents and some various learning resources and information down here that SAP provides. One thing to note, though, that if you do not have an internet connection, this stuff you will not see. So, just a couple examples. This is a pretty simple sales and operational dashboard. We're showing sales figures by month, interactive in that you could click on one of these bars and it could adjust the product breakdown for that month. And these gauges here kind of work with to be able to show how your performance is going, as well as inclusion of a map. And this is just a very static map. We'll get into kind of the more advanced maps in a little bit later in the presentation. So these two are kind of good dashboards, or not good dashboards, but they are appropriate use of a dashboard. I like this one especially because it's very interactive as you move through these measures here and the indicators and this informational change. And it's very interactive for the user to be able to click on items here and especially identify issues of concern. So, for example, your eye would naturally go to customer usage and the head count here just because they stick out with the alerters. And then this one here is a very enveloped dashboard, but I love to show this one just because it shows how, a very developed dashboard. It shows just how good this tool is and just how powerful this tool can be. This is for one of our customers to enable their customer service representatives to type in an account number when someone calls about a water bill, and be able to pull up their information and go to the database and bring back all of this usage information and this in leveraging this map here. This map currently is not available on the mobile, but there are advances towards that. Like I said, I just love to show this one in that it's so detailed, and as you click on these items here, you can search for new accounts and start new searches and direct text entry, as well as very detailed usage and graphical displays. So, mobile dashboards. Starting with SAP BusinessObjects Service Pack 5, dashboards are able to start being viewed on mobile devices, especially the iPad, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Previously, dashboards weren't able to be viewed on their mobile devices without relying on some kind of third-party solution. The ones that you may have discovered were Roamby, Exova, and Tibia Anywhere, especially for iOS devices, in that a dashboard in its previous versions and states required the use of Flash to be presented and actually rendered in Flash. So they are consumed through the SAP BusinessObjects mobile app for your mobile device that you can get access from either the iOS App Store or the Google Play or what have you. So, some of the features in mobile dashboards, and we're kind of going to go through this part a little bit quickly, and then we're going to do a live demonstration of building a mobile dashboard and show off just how quickly you can build a dashboard, publish it, and then consume it on a mobile device. So dashboards can now be saved for desktop consumption, which will still render in Flash, the mobile consumption, which will cause it to render in HTML5. And you can also save it in both mobile and desktop. One thing to take note of is that saving for desktop does preclude it from being opened in mobile, and vice versa. The same goes for saving it only for mobile. Unless there's a reason not to within your organization, I definitely recommend saving it for both desktop and mobile consumption. We'll get to some of the limitations that come with that in a little bit, but if it's something you ever want available on mobile, I would save it for both, just so that it's not lost in your BusinessObjects enterprise. And as I mentioned, the saving it for a mobile consumption does compile it in HTML5, or cause it to be rendered in HTML5 rather than in Flash. And it actually, when you do the save for both, it actually compiles it in both and puts both in the BusinessObjects platform. And then depending on where you're accessing it from, it will deliver either your HTML5 or your Flash version. So, while designing mobile dashboards, the new tool allows users to make sure they're not going to get too excited by bringing out a component that is not supported for their mobile device or not supported on mobile, just in general. When you're designing and you're on your components, it enables you to just select, you can select to only see your mobile components rather than seeing everything, which is really nice for those of you who have had a lot of experience with dashboards and you love XYZ component, you love your calendar or something like that. You love to use that around your dashboard, and that is something that's an example in this release that was not supported. So it's nice to kind of just go ahead and get your subset, your selection set limited down already. In SP5, there's also the ability to kind of nicely preview it in either a mobile or a desktop perspective, allowing you to see how certain components are going to look in either environment. We're definitely going to touch on a little bit the importance of keeping in mind when you are designing for a mobile device. So, as I mentioned, only a subset of those components are available when you're going to consume on a mobile device. And going back a little bit to the saving for desktop and mobile, there is, when you want something to be accessed by a desktop user, and if you do need those other components, it's important to remember that when you're designing a dashboard now for mobile devices or desktop devices. You're not going to be able to deliver exactly the same functionality to your desktop user, but enough that it's It still can be a good dashboard if designed correctly, but of course only that subset is available. Another obstacle of using the mobile dashboards is that only the query browser data connection is enabled. You cannot use any BI web services. Those are the data sources and web services that leverage a web intelligence report that you've built. That's just, I mentioned this one because that's the most common non-direct bind or universe query, or the query browser connection. And all right, so developing for mobile consumption. So it's not your traditional landscape or environment that many dashboard designers and other designers in general have become accustomed to. Talk to any application developer or website designer, and the mobile paradigm is such an importance now that you need to know how to design for it correctly. One thing that, especially for myself and my large fingers, is that you have to keep in mind that there's no longer a mouse here to select components and interact with your dashboard. You can't require pinpoint accuracy when asking people to click on a label or click on a button to drive other components. You need to kind of give some more space. So definitely properly space out your components. And on the other side, the double-edged sword here is that screen real estate, of course, on a mobile device does come at a premium. So you not only need to give a little more, but your canvas is limited slightly. So we're going to do a demonstration here of the dashboards part. So we'll switch over to our Windows environment. And real quick. While that's doing that, we'll go ahead and open dashboards up. So here I'm going to be using a Service Pack 6 version. Service Pack 5 was the first one that allowed to be consumed for a mobile device. We'll start with a blank model here. Excuse me, I'm coming off a little bit cold, so I apologize for all the coughing. And those of you who know, you just got to give Celsius, and sorry, I find myself doing it. You got to give dashboards just a few minutes to kind of get it together. All right, so here we're just going to give a quick little data set of, we'll call this attendees, and we'll do it by webinar. We'll call this one sorry, that was the architecture. The last week's was web intelligence. This one is dashboards, and next week we have the Lumira one. Show attendees. I'll go ahead and say I have 2,000, and then 50 for next week. I think this number's a little bit bigger. So we'll bring out a little bit of a chart. Quick column chart here. Map this down here. And we'll map to our data set here. And for those of you who know, you need to make sure you hopefully title your series and your X values well enough. So let's just call this art, Webby. All right, get it down there a little bit. What I was talking about earlier, when you're designing your dashboards, there are various components that are enabled for mobile devices and those that aren't. So for example, we'll take out the calendar that I really love to use. Some people might disagree and say it's not very good for a dashboard, but I think it's a great tool and very powerful. But when we go to mobile only, we'll notice that we can no longer select our calendar. So it's something to keep in mind. I do like that this tool, the tool does show you that. So we still have most of the charts, very close to all of the charts still available. Some of the selectors, toggle buttons are something that I believe were released in this service pack. They were not in the initial one, or they were there, but they weren't fully supported. So we'll just do this here, jazz this up a little bit. This is, of course, purely cosmetic, and that looks like bubblegum, hopefully. So now we'll go to our mobile compatibility check, which is something we're going to show a little bit later. But the mobile compatibility check is going to talk to us about what is supported, and if we've used a tool that's not supported, it'll let us know. So this example here is obviously the calendar. So it tells us that it's unsupported, so we'll go ahead and take it out here. And then you can refresh your mobile compatibility check. I like to equate it to kind of running a check integrity on a universe that you've built. We'll just publish this. And then coming into the connections, we'll notice that all of the data manager connections are web service or queries web service, which is our BI web services, web service connections, BW, flash variables and such are not supported on the mobile devices. So it does let you know that. But if we were to add one, just asking for trouble, I'm just going to call it test. So we've added a web service connection. We come and rerun our mobile compatibility check over here. We'll see that on our connectivity scale, we have an unsupported connection, and that, of course, is the test we just put in there. So the compatibility check is a very valuable tool. I definitely suggest using it if you are going to be designing for mobile devices. One thing to also note is that while the column chart itself is supported, if you were to be using kind of an insertion method, it would only enable only the mouse click is allowed, and that is another nice part of the compatibility check, and that it tells us for this chart we can only use mouse click. If we were to set it to mouse over, it's going to give us a warning saying it's not supported. So we'll set it back to mouse click. We're all good to go again. Of course, we're not actually going to be inserting anything, but let's save this to a platform, and we're going to save it for both desktop and mobile. Let's connect to the BusinessObjects platform. Put it here. We're going to call this demo. We'll save the document now and do its generating the Swift file. While it does that, I'm going to go ahead and get the mobile parts set up here. Just make sure I'm still running Reflector and bring that to the front. Just give me 1 second, please, while I get my iPad connected. All right. So those of you who do a lot of mobile device demos, this is something, in my opinion, a very valuable tool to have a mirroring tool like this. So, well, and then in Apple's infinite wisdom, they still have not removed the fact that when you're sharing your mobile device screen, your password is actually shared as well. So hopefully none of you remembered that. But make sure we're still VPN'd. So we're VPN'd to Decision First. And now we'll open up the mobile app, and let's just take you in from the very beginning. So this is the SAP BusinessObjects mobile application. is the application here. Those of you who are familiar with it, it enables you to view various reports as well as other items. So we're going to go and connect. We're going to connect to our Business Objects environment one. Just take a second to log in. All right, so it's going to take us right in here, and I like to sort mine by date. There's other various ways to sort it. We can sort it by type, and that'll get us only our dashboards that we have available. So let's go ahead and do it back by date. And we see that our demo one is here, and if you're ever in here and something is not there in time, you can just pull down and do a little swipe to refresh. It's like the computer is lagging a little bit, so I'm going to give it a second to catch up. All right, so we'll just open up our demo just by tapping on the demo item there. And we see here that we've got the dashboard we just created. So we can interact with the chart, and if we wanted to be doing inserts with it, we could. And then one of my favorite features in this, and I'm going to show it on another dashboard that's kind of more built out in a second, is the pinch to zoom on your chart. I think it's a really, really great feature that they put into this, in that you can kind of zoom in here. Of course, it doesn't make much sense here because we only have 4 columns, but you can do this, do your little pinch like you would zoom in on a photo, so you can zoom in, and then you can just slide it over to view each one. Some other nice tools that come with the mobile app, especially for dashboards as well, you get to by hitting this. Sorry. So you can get to, up in this top right corner, there is this little zoom window. So we push, menu window. So we'll push that, and then by clicking on the settings gear, we get to see a lot of different tools here. So we can go full screen, and then what I really like is you can annotate now. You cannot, however, move your device around while doing annotations. But in doing annotations, you can write on the screen now. You can now add some comments. So this is a iPad dashboard. And you can move it around a little bit, and then you can kind of erase your doodles. Yep. And it might crash every once in a while, so don't be alarmed by that. Sorry about that. We'll just go back in. This is an iPad 2. So far, I've been able to tell that that's oftentimes the cause here for me, in that I'm not only interacting with this dashboard, but also mirroring my screen over Wi-Fi. It's a lot to handle. So let's go back in and show you. So we touched on annotation. There's also the ability to email this. So it'll just take up your, it'll let you open the report in a browser or using your application. It also sends a nice little screenshot of what you've got in there so far. And of course, this functions just like your regular iOS mail does. There's the collaborate, and this enables you to use the SAP Streamwork so that you can share and share feedback with colleagues and other workers. So what I'm going to show you is our this is for a client. It's called the Tamper dashboard. Now, before we go into it, I will just give a disclaimer that, well, first of all, we talk to the client, and it's okay, but also the map here is a screenshot. We're using it for demonstration purposes. So the map itself is not able to be put into the the mobile dashboards at the moment. So you can, there's the ability to scroll through your list views on the mobile device just as you would any other dashboard. This dashboard itself is used to identify energy theft and energy diversion. So by clicking on our first service point, we're going to see that this service point has interacted with various other components on this dashboard, and now we see our events and our interval data graphs. And you can click on various events down here, and that changes the date for the interval data on the right. So we'll just do this and go into our second one. You'll see here that there's these date controls here, and this is when it was designed for a desktop. This is where we had our calendars, and as you can see, as I said, I'm very partial to the calendar, but we have to live with what we can get. But as I was showing you earlier, in the 4-column dashboard, which of course is not very detailed, but load this up a little bit. This allows us to, in the graph, which I think is an even better experience than on the desktop, is that you can put your finger anywhere in the graph plot area and get a nice little pop-up window to come up and give you more information about the points you're looking at, rather than on the desktop where you have to show, get your mouse right on it. And this is where SAP has kind of taken that extra step and designed for the mobile consumer and made it so that you don't have to have the pinpoint accuracy, but you can just put your finger down and acknowledge that the user has less control than they normally do. So this shows us our energy usage. But as we talked earlier, we can now do this whole pinch to zoom and slide through our graph and notice some things. We noticed some weird voltage readings in the last hour or two, so we can zoom in here and just look at this. So it's a really nice tool, a really nice part of it. So now we're going to jump back into the presentation. I wanted to do that demonstration there just to show you how quickly you can publish a dashboard and have it on a mobile device. That 4-column one is obviously a very simple dashboard and does not require a lot of designing and a lot of expertise to build. Requires zero, but it's a nice demonstration to show that we took maybe 45 seconds. We designed a dashboard, we had it all wrapped up, and we put it on. We saved it down to the server, and we were consuming it on an iPad in less than 2 minutes. I liked it when things took a little longer because it ate up more time in demonstrations. But as you see here, SAP is really taking the extra stride here and made it a very quick tool. So come back in here, and then we already went through the mobile application, BusinessObjects Mobile. So just a quick touch on Design Studio. It was previously referred to as Zen. It was released in the second half of 2012. It's definitely a more complex application design tool rather than just for visualizations themselves, visualizations alone. It did replace the Web Application Designer. And it allows application designers to create analysis applications and dashboards, and they are enabled for both web browsers and mobile devices. And this does have different data source support, but still not exactly what dashboards had in its legacy versions. So when using Design Studio, you actually have the option right from the beginning to set your locale for its viewing. If it's going to be a development for a desktop browser or for an iPad and an iPad. And then it provides you some nice templates. One of the things I really like is that it provides the familiar iOS interface that a lot of users do expect. The component set is definitely more limited in dashboards, but this is also from almost a year-old instance of Design Studio, so it's grown significantly and has definitely grown up from where it was in this release. Give developers a good start at creating your iOS appearance that a lot of people come to expect. Your drop-downs, your text, and it looks familiar to your standard user. Of course, with iOS 7, the black and all that is probably gonna change, but. So in Design Studio, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Design Studio, how many of you have had the opportunity to use it, but you can, you add your data sources, and then one of the things that always stuck out to me was, not stuck out rather, but was something important to get the hang of the first time, is that while you add your data sources through this nice, easy access button, you have to kind of give a back-end connection first before it sees where the data sources can be added from. And that's done under, I believe, the tools and preferences. So during and after your deployment, you can preview your application. It can be previewed on your computer itself, but just from the application, it'll launch it, as well as it'll generate a QR code that you can scan with your iPad using any of the QR code readers, and then it'll actually launch into the application from your mobile device. So that is most of the presentation. One thing I did want to touch on today, or one more thing I wanted to touch on, was the adding the data sources that are supported in the mobile device. So we're going to open the query browser. And this is, in the presentation, I referred to the query browser components. This is what those are, and you would add your query here. So now that we've gotten through the bulk of the presentation, I'm going to kind of build a little bit slightly more developed dashboard than this 4-column chart. So we're going to add a universe query. And this is going to use the universes that you build through Information Design Tool. I'll make those available here. Just give it a second to pull those up. So we'll just use eFashion. Yeah, I'll use eFashion for now. Sorry, eStaff. We'll just bring in 2 objects here. See this here. Bring in salary. Refresh again real quick. We'll add a city filter, so we'll let that be a prompt. But just to kind of get a hang of our data, we'll see that we've got a couple cities here, but we'll pick Chicago for now. Refresh it, see what kind of results we still get. So we get about 10 results. So now let's just make it a prompt. And it'll be city. And then we're going to take our list of values away. Let's go next here. Chicago. Okay. So that's going to put your query over here for those of you who have been using dashboards since Service Pack or since 4.0. Came out. This is where your direct binding query browser queries you've generated are. So we're going to put these into the spreadsheet. So let's give ourselves, let's clear this up real quick, clear that, and set this to just be white. We're going to put this data into our spreadsheet, or design sheet here. So we've got first name, last name, salary. So these are going to be our query result objects. So we'll go ahead and identify those. And let's just give ourselves room for 20 or so rows. Everyone has their own strategy for coloring and separating out their dashboards. This is how I have gotten in the hang of doing it. I always use my data dump area in bright yellow. So just go ahead and bind each of these result objects to their respective locations on the spreadsheet. And salary. Let's open up our components view as well. And we'll want to see let's say we want to do a column chart again. I'm not very creative here. So let's just make it look a little bit better. And we'll just salary by employee. And we'll bind this subtitle to one of the cells in our spreadsheet. What we're going to do here, we're going to have, so this is where we're going to put our prompt in a second. The prompt value will go there. And this will be, so our subtitle will be, if this is blank, then leave it blank. But if it has something, if it has a value, so if that's the false value, we'll do or city, and that way when there is something shown there, so Chicago, we'll see it there. So let's do it blank for now, and we will concatenate the full name here. So what I've done there is just, for those of you who are familiar with Excel CS, or dashboards rather, what I'm just doing here is, if it's blank, leave it blank, but otherwise give me the first name, let's put a space in there, and then give me the last name. Of course, that's something that a universe object called full name could very easily be developed for, but for this purpose, since we're just kind of going on the fly, we will just concatenate it in Excel. Identify that that is not a database value. Oops, sorry. And we'll just give ourselves a series, and it'll be salary. Map our values to the salary, excuse me, to the salary field, and our x-axis to the names that we've just created. So let's come in and make sure we ignore values there, just in case that way if there's not 10, there's not 10 or 20 or however many that we map it to, that we'll just see a blank value there. And then our city, we're going to map this here. So we're going to map our prompt value to right here. And then we're going to go get our prompt value in a different way. So now let's do another query real quick. Oops. Sorry about that. Thought it said e-fashion. Okay. All right, so we'll do city here. I'm just going to bring back all of our cities. It's only going to take about another minute or two, and then we'll be able to go into kind of the wrap-up phase. So we will dump our cities right here. And now we will use a box here. That to our city value. And we'll set our destination for the label that we've chosen to that prompt section. Prompt destination box right there. So that one is set to refresh. Let's go and edit this real quick so that it changes, so that it refreshes every time we pick a new, value, it'll refresh. So we'll pick our trigger cell, that prompt, and every time it changes. All right, so as I showed earlier, you can do your preview there. Save this as demo. Save it out to the platform for desktop and mobile. Pick up. Closing up our demo. And we'll see that the image we had there previously is the one that's still there on the home screen. So first here we have Chicago, so it does kind of, since we left the last value on, it is still there. But what I like is that we set our prompt value here, and it's kind of nice for your end user that it's in your familiar iOS drop-down interface. So let's go ahead and just pick Colorado Springs. We see that Colorado Springs gets updated up there. And then our salaries come in. We can just move across and see our salary information. So that's right. I needed to refresh there a little bit. So now we've got our Colorado Springs information. So that is how, just another example of how quickly we can build a dashboard, one that actually, in this instance, actually goes and gets real data. So I am being told to hurry up, so I will just go jump back to the presentation real quick. So enabling for your return on investment for the mobile dashboard, it allows for a wider use of your dashboard and your interactive visualizations. More people now have access to your content. Now have content access on the go now as well. And then using it from SP5 and above, there's no more additional cost of a third-party mobilization solution for your dashboards. And then, best practices, identify when the dashboard is the right tool. Some of the ones we shown are very developed and very detailed. Some are not the right, some instances it's not the right example. And then keeping in mind your dashboard environment across both and how you want your consumers to interact with the components. Keep in mind that touch paradigm of not requiring pinpoint accuracy and information and stuff like that. For our takeaways, dashboards, I hope the biggest takeaway is that now dashboards can be natively designed for consumption on mobile devices through the mobile BI app. Dashboards are compiled in HTML5 and Flash, depending on where gives you the appropriate one. And then dashboards are still not applications, but they are now offering a tool that help with that. And then there are some references of the SAP mobile device product availability matrix, the documentation for mobile, and then also we have, I thought it was a very interesting article about mobile design for Mashable, as well as what Stefan mentioned earlier, our Decision First blog. So how can we help? I think this is where Stefan is going to jump in.
Absolutely. Thanks, Patrick. That was a great presentation. I'll try to, get to the Q&A session quickly here. But what we'd like to do is share some of the information that, some of the things we might be able to help you with for your mobile BI project. And one of the things you don't want to do is, run out of this webinar and deploy the mobile tool because, they look really sharp. You got to be paying attention to your licensing and check if you're licensed. So we've noticed with customers, sometimes it's a little hard to navigate SAP's licensing, so we're happy to help with that. We've helped, dozens of customers convert to the appropriate licensing model and making sure, they have the right model in place with SAP. And then the other things you do want to do is kind of get an understanding of, the size of your project. So we can help you assess, like Patrick said, which dashboards, which tool to use, if it's a dashboard or web content, and then we can help you assess what content that's already developed is ready for mobile, which one needs a little bit of attention, and which one is just not suitable for mobile devices. So, we're happy to help with these things, and as part of this webinar, we'll actually be reaching out to you guys in attendance over the next few days to share some tips and kind of understand where you're at with mobile BI and understand your goals going forward. Next slide, Patrick. One final point here. We'd like to invite you to the last part of this webinar series. It will be next Thursday on October 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern or 11 a.m. Pacific. And this one will be showcasing Explorer and Lumira. And now I'll turn it back over to Steve for the question and answer.
Okay, thanks very much, gentlemen. Excellent presentation and demo. Unfortunately, we just have a few moments for our Q&A, although we do have captured all the questions, and we will be able to follow up with people after the fact. We just also want to remind everybody to please complete the feedback form survey that will appear on your desktop when you close out. So anyways, a question here from William. Can I use BI web services as a data source?
So unfortunately, BI web services are not supported. That was in the data connections panel. The only thing supported right now are the universe, what you can build through the query browser, which is the universe and the BEX queries. It's a good question, though. It's definitely something to keep in mind. It's very important when you're designing.
Okay, great. And another question here, can the dashboards be viewed with iPhones?
Right now, they cannot be viewed on the iPhone. If you use the mobile BusinessObjects mobile application on the iPhone, it will not let you choose the dashboards.
Okay, a question from Flavia. What are the data sources you are using for a Tamper dashboard? Is it a BW query?
So in the Tamper dashboard that I showed, it was that was using Excel. We use that dashboard just for a demonstration of showing how the dashboard can be interacted with on a mobile device. That in actual practice, though, when using production data, we use Excel to make sure we weren't using customer data, but that was just that was universe queries was what was driving that.
Okay.
EU and X universe.
All right. Sankar has a question. Would it be possible to create a dashboard from multiple universes?
So it's definitely possible. You can. That would just be adding a new universe query. One of the things you saw me do when in the second demonstration, I did one dashboard just using Excel, and then on the second one, I did the query to get our our employees and their salary. Then I also did a second query to get the cities. When I did that second query, I could have picked a separate universe. It does not have to be the same one. One thing that's very important is the relationship of your data, but that's a totally different discussion.
All right, and one last question here from Peter. Is there any limitation on the data volume or difference by performance between desktop and the mobile version?
I have not seen a distinct difference. There is, as a best practice, I'm more cautious on the mobile device. As you saw when I was running it earlier, it did crash on me. And I think that was the stress on the device, not the application. So the more data you do have, the more intensive it is to use the dashboard. I definitely recommend keeping it down to a reasonable number, 5,000 or less rows. But the difference, you can probably get away with more on the desktop, but I would try and keep it around the same volume.
Okay, well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today's live Q&A and broadcast. Again, if we didn't get to your question, we do have a copy of all of them, and we will follow up with you. We'll also follow up with an email that has a link to download a PDF of the slides and a link to access this presentation on demand. So we want to thank you all for attending today's webinar, Building Dashboards for Mobile Consumption, hosted by SAP Insider and presented by Decision First Technologies. On behalf of our guests, Patrick Leonard, Business Intelligence Consultant, and Stefan Nikais, Corporate Sales with Decision First Technologies, we want to thank you for your time and have a great day.